Hello everyone, TimeToGrind here, and today I wanted to talk about Black Book. And Black Book is one of the best story-driven RPGs I think I've played recently. Normally I have a hard time sticking with these really long story games, but Black Book is one I could not stop playing. And I think it all comes down to the fact that it takes the card-based deck-building gameplay from games like Slay the Spire and puts them in this super fascinating story that's based from Slavic myths. And I have absolutely no experience with Slavic and Russian myths and folklore, and I think that's one of the main reasons this game absolutely enticed me. And this is going to be a very non-spoiler review, and in fact I'm only going to be showing you gameplay from the first couple of hours because I definitely want you to play this game on your own. But the game starts out with you learning how to become a witch from your grandpa because your fiance apparently committed suicide. And according to Slavic religion, those that commit suicide are destined to go to hell. So you go through this entire process to become a witch and end up with this black book that contains all your spells and zagavors, or however you pronounce that. And you apparently need to break open all the seals the book contains in order to be able to get a single wish that you'll use to bring your fiance back from the dead. And so the story obviously has crazy twists and turns and can actually get pretty freaking dark at times, but it's always super well paced and keeps things interesting. And throughout the game you'll find new spells to put in your black book, and you can customize your actual deck. So the majority of my playthrough I had a type of deck that was super aggressive and relied on playing multiple of the same type of card each turn. There seemed to be several different types of decks you could build though, from block builds to poison builds and more. And some of the bosses you end up fighting later in the game require you to actually change up your decks, as they might counter the deck that you've been running up to that point. And the game, obviously being a super story based game, has a ton of dialogue in it, but like a lot of RPGs, it gives you an incredible amount of freedom in how you want to play the game. You can choose to fight people, monsters, and demons as soon as you see them, or you could maybe try to, talk to them at first. You will have to make moral decisions that will raise your sin meter up or down, and it actually has very satisfying and impactful consequences near the end of the game, which I love, but obviously won't spoil in this video. You are also constantly leveling up to get new skills, though the skills are a bit more on the boring side, I'm not gonna lie, but I do think the game is better for having them. You also have to juggle several different shorts, which are pretty much these demons that work for you, and if you don't want to send them to torment other people and you'll get sin because of that, they'll actually stay with you, giving you debuffs like poisoning you at the start of your turn or lowering your maximum health. There's a ton of different passive items you can find in the game as well that help complement the strategies you're trying to do either with your deck or your personality, or even a card game that can be played throughout the game. I can't speak much on that because I avoided most of it in my playthrough though. Also in the game, you're constantly finding little poems, excerpts, stories, and even music that are all based on actual Slavic myths and folklore. And so I truly felt like I was just absorbing tons of information on a culture that I had no exposure to, and I think a game that can do that is absolutely amazing. I never read all the little secret things you can find in these types of RPGs, but I have to say, I read almost every single piece of extra content the game gave me because I was so into the atmosphere and theme of the game. Also, the game itself was just so freaking pretty to look at. It has a very distinct art style that really matches up with the folklore, and the voice acting I thought was actually pretty incredible, besides a couple of, random small side characters here and there. And so the game overall took me 25 hours to complete, and I loved every single minute of it. As you get further and further in the game, you get more and more interesting cards, the story starts to really ramp up and didn't feel predictable at all, at least for me, and the ending of the game was absolutely perfect, and I feel like I was really rewarded for trying to do good, as I was going for the, true good ending the entire time. I think this is a game that you absolutely need to try out if you're either interested in really good story games, especially ones with unique culture like Slavic myths that this game is based on, but also if you're a deck building fan. I know a lot of myself are fans of roguelike deck builders like Slay the Spire, and this is the first ever major story-based deck building game I've ever played, and it really makes me want more games like this. Also, the game just released a $5 DLC that adds an entire new roguelite mode to the game. So, after you beat the game, which is what I would recommend, or technically before that if you wanted, you can play the entire game in a really awesome, roguelite way that mimics games like Slay the Spire while still having all the charm of the original game. And I think it's the perfect thing that this game could use to give it more replayability, and it just makes so much sense since the gameplay so closely resembles deck building roguelike. experience, and I haven't had enough time, really to sink my teeth in it. I've played it for a couple of hours, but from, my first impressions of the roguelike mode, or roguelite mode is exactly, what I would want in a mode like that. So I'm really, really happy that that DLC exists. And also, I actually turned my entire playthrough of the game, including the roguelite mode, into a Let's Play series on my channel. So if you do want to watch the entire campaign instead of playing it, then click the playlist at the end of the video or in the description down below. And if you enjoyed this video, then consider leaving a like down below and subscribing to see more content like this. And if you're going to be grinding out some Black Book on your own or watching my Let's Play series, then I wish you luck and see you all next time.